Thank you very much for joining us today. And I'm here to talk about how we can use GitHub Copilot in general, but specifically for TypeScript. Okay, so right now everyone is using Copilot. Everyone is using Azure AI, Azure OpenAI, generative AI, those kind of thing. And with the introduction of generative AI into GitHub, obviously in the form of GitHub Copilot, it has expanded very much boundaries for all of the developers. So it is kind of an exciting time to start developing alongside that AI pair programmer, which is GitHub Copilot. So it is kind of an exciting time for all of the developers by giving the code suggestions in various languages. That what GitHub Copilot does. So maybe imagine a world where we are writing a code that feels like more of a collaborating with the intelligent kind of a partner than struggling through lines of syntax and everything. So that is where the GitHub Copilots will help. So GitHub Copilot is bringing us very much closer to the reality by using cutting edge AI technology to assist developers in their coding journey. So for example, if you think of GitHub Copilot, it is simply an AI powered coding assistant which is developed by GitHub in collaboration with OpenAI, and it has been designed to help developers write code more efficiently and with very much fewer errors by providing the code suggestions, auto completions directly within the integrated development environment or IDEs like Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, and many more. Okay, so that is what GitHub Copilot is, and specifically we will be talking about how you can enable Copilot, how GitHub Copilot, how you can use that for writing your codes, and all those kind of thing. All right, so before we get started, quick introduction. Myself, Nanddeep Nachan. I'm Microsoft MVP as well as Microsoft Certified Trainer, as well as I'm TOGAF certified. I work as an independent consultant, and these are the three books that I have written, including SharePoint Framework, SharePoint Hybrid, and Microsoft Viva Connections. I'm from Pune, and then these are my social media handles: Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as my blog and YouTube URL from where you will be able to get in touch with me. So, for example, if you want to have more discussion, more collaboration onto this topic, feel free to give me a buzz, and then we can get connected on that. Okay, so the agenda that we have got for today is we will have overview of GitHub Copilot. I know most of you have been using GitHub Copilot, but still I will start from the basic, and then we will see the overview of GitHub Copilot, what is GitHub Copilot, what are its offering and everything. And wherever we are using the AI technology, specifically with the generative AI, because again, GitHub Copilot is one of the live example of generative AI in the form of code. So when we are working with those, we have prompt engineering. Okay, so we will see like how prompt engineering works well with GitHub Copilot, how we should use them, and again we will see few of the key features and capabilities which are offered by GitHub Copilot. And again, there is one of the feature or one of the extension which is available from GitHub called as GitHub Copilot Chat. So we will see like how GitHub Copilot Chat help us to maybe create our code, write the code, find the issues, as well as debug and find resolutions to the issues reported. We will also see like how we'll be able to use this GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio Code, how we can install and get it set it up so that we'll be able to use that. And obviously we will start with writing our first code in GitHub Copilot. And I will also show you like how you will be able to debug your code with GitHub Copilot. Okay, so this is kind of an agenda. Don't worry, even though it's a very big agenda, we have few basic concepts to clear. Okay, so with that, let's get started with GitHub Copilot. So as I said to you, Copilot, for example, if you take out that word, it is your AI assistant that can help you with many things. And in conjunction to the GitHub, so this is the GitHub Copilot that can help you to simply write the code. Okay, so this has been created on a specific language model that we are going to explore, but simply GitHub Copilot is your pair programmer that can help you write the code, maybe have some suggestions, writing the test cases, and all those kind of thing. So programmers they use variety of IDEs, integrated development environments, while they are developing their code. So depending on their specific needs and preferences. Even for example, if you ask me, I mostly use Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, and with the integration of Visual Studio Code with GitHub Copilot, it has given at least me some more edge towards writing that code very efficiently, so that I will be able to write the code very easily and then debug my code, write test cases very easily. So going to share those things with you as well. Okay, so what are the common challenges as well as the goals of the developers are? Because we as a developer work on various things. We do use various IDEs, integrated developer environments, and they're like what are the goals that we have got as well as what are the challenges that we face. So first thing is like everyone as a developer or as an organization wants to improve the efficiency. Okay, so writing a code can be time consuming. So let's say for example, if you are working on a certain part of the project or the entire project, writing a code is always tedious or time consuming kind of a task. So GitHub Copilot specifically has been aimed to accelerate that process by offering context aware kind of a suggestion. So what is meant by context aware is like it knows the context in which you are writing the code. So for example, it can look out for the IDE which is open, the files which are open along with that IDE. So let's say for example, you have Visual Studio Code wherein you are writing your code. So it can have access to the entire project wherein you are writing the code, as well as all of the open files into the tab it has got access to. At the same time, even for example, if you have it configured, it also has got access to the public repositories. So that means whenever we are writing a common type of an code, because most of the time what happens is like we do write our code, then we create the utility methods out of it, we extract those as a utility methods, and then we start building on top of that. So at least GitHub Copilot knows everything. There's an algorithm behind that which I will try to explain. So it does everything, and then again it will help you to have the context aware kind of a suggestion. So it knows that, for example, if I'm writing a PowerShell code, it can give me the suggestion from various public repositories as well as the current repository wherein I'm writing those code. Okay, so, and for example, if I'm writing a TypeScript code, it can give me the suggestions which are related to the TypeScript code. So what are the advantage of that? So the biggest advantage is that it can reduce the need for developers to write the repetitive or maybe boilerplate kind of an code manually. Okay, so obviously there will be boilerplate code that is needed, but we don't need to do that manually. Using this GitHub Copilot, we can just make a comment and then let GitHub Copilot write the code for us. Even I'm going to demonstrate that you. I'm just keeping that excitement for a while, but I will show you like how those things happen as well. Oh, sorry, I think I clicked. Oh, okay. So the first thing is about that improving the developer efficiency. Second kind of a goal that every developer has got is to simplifying the complex code. Okay, because the modern software projects, they often involve complex kind of a code bases, and even the developer almost spends significant amount of time navigating through various files and understanding the dependencies or relationship between various components which are involved into that code. And then again, Copilot's motivation includes the simplification of the code by considering the broader kind of an context of the code, and again it can encompass the multiple files and tabs in the integrated development environment or those IDs. So for example, if you have been given some kind of an code, if you think it is a complex code, and obviously it is a feeling of everyone that the code which is written by other person, it is a complex code. Okay, so always we think that okay, I'm the one who can write very simplest code on the earth, but obviously when I will pass on my code to other developer, he or she might feel that that code is complex. So in that case, this kind of an tool which is GitHub Copilot can definitely help you to understand the code which is written by the other developer. So again, I will not say that it will give you 100% very accurate information about that, but even though, for example, the code does not has got any comments or any indentation or formatting, anything of that sort, still Copilot will or GitHub Copilot specifically will apply its algorithm and try to give you the information about that code. Okay, so like what the code is doing, what are the dependencies that it has got, as well as what kind of an information that it is trying to access. So at least it can give you that information. But again, this is just the copilot, it is not autopilot, so it is your responsibility to validate that. But yeah, it can help you to simplify the complex code. The other thing that every developer face the challenge is like to reduce the repetition. Okay, because for example, the more amount of code that we write, the more amount of code that we need to maintain. So with that philosophy, developers always commonly encounter the repetitive patterns in their code. So for example, writing similar kind of functions or maybe structure across different files. So GitHub Copilot is specifically designed to recognize this kind of a pattern and then generate the appropriate code snippet. So with this, it can reduce the need for developers to type out repetitive kind of a section manually. So probably, let's say for example, if you're writing a code to multiply two numbers, a very simplistic example, in that case, you can just ask Copilot to write the function for you, and then it can directly do it for you. You don't need to write a code entirely, because this is some kind of an common pattern or very generic kind of an code which has been available on the earth for a longer time, and then obviously GitHub Copilot can surface that and give it to you. The other kind of an goal or the challenge that we have always is to learn from the existing code. Okay, so we have got vast amount of code, and then maybe into the public repositories or private repositories, and then by training on those diverse code bases, Copilot mostly tries to learn from the real world examples and provide the suggestions which can align with common coding practices. Okay, so maybe it can include common practices, styles, and patterns. So we do have a huge amount of code base available in the form of public repositories or maybe private repositories. So wherever you have access, Copilot will be able to get into that, and then it should be able to suggest you these solutions. Okay, the other kind of an goal which can be easily achieved with GitHub Copilot is faster collaboration, because whenever we work in a team, we look out for those collaboration. So GitHub Copilot encourage the collaboration by enabling the developers to share and reuse the code very much efficiently. So it facilitates the exchange of ideas, best practices within the developer community. So it can suggest the code snippets that can align with the established conventions and standards as well. So probably like for example, if you have multiple peoples who are working with your team, in that case probably it can help you suggesting the code snippet, and then you will be able to share your code snippet with each other and all those kind of thing. So it has got access to everything, public repositories, private repositories, and then it can help you suggesting the code from there. Okay, so the other thing is in the cognitive kind of an burden. So mostly like um, writing the code requires a deep understanding of a specific syntax or logic, or maybe even mostly like what we uh, what we type into the code and everything is something that we need to take into consideration. So writing the code requires very much a deep understanding of syntax, logic, or even the project specific details. So Copilot seeks to elevate some of those cognitive load onto the developers, and it can offer the intelligent kind of suggestions which allow them to focus on high level design decisions or even maybe the problem solving. Okay, and then lastly, like it can establish the feedback kind of a mechanism. So GitHub Copilot is pretty much motivated by the iterative kind of a feedback loop. So as a developer, when we use this tool, their interactions contribute to the learning process, which will help the system continually improve its suggestions and then adapt to the evolving kind of an coding practices. Okay, all right, so before we start with the GitHub Copilot, I just want to show you like how the GitHub looks like. Okay, so GitHub is a place wherein you will be able to maintain your code, write your code, and then you will be able to create your repositories and everything there. Okay, so just give me one moment. I should have logged into my GitHub account already, but unfortunately I do not. So just give me one moment for that. Excuse me for that, and then I will get myself logged into to this GitHub Copilot. All right. Okay, I will have to get authenticated for this. So I was talking like GitHub Copilot is or GitHub is specifically your place wherein you will be able to write your code, maintain your code into the repositories and everything. So let's say, okay, I think I am here. So let me just show you how the GitHub Copilot or the GitHub looks like. So this is how the GitHub looks like, wherein you will be able to write the code, have your projects and everything. So it is a place where projects get started and where the developers collaborate and where the open source community builds and maintains the world's code. Okay, so GitHub is pretty much widely used platform for hosting and collaborating on software development projects, and it simply serves as a central hub where developers can store their code repositories, they can track the changes, they can work together with the collaborators, as well as GitHub utilizes the Git version control system, which allows developers to manage different versions of their code base very efficiently. And on GitHub, developers can create repositories to store their code. They can as well manage the issues. They can do the bug tracking, perform the code reviews, and even collaborate with others through the features like pull request or even branching. So it provides a simplistic kind of an web-based interface along with desktop and command line kind of an tools, which makes pretty much easy or accessible to the developers across various platform and skill levels. Okay, so GitHub has become an essential tool for both open source and private projects that obviously facilitate the collaboration among the developers worldwide. So it offers a range of features to streamline the software development process from version control to project management, making it a cornerstone of modern software development workflows. Okay, so this is how GitHub Copilot is, and then probably let me just show you how the GitHub Copilot or GitHub looks like. So this is how the GitHub looks like, and then, for example, if you do not have account on GitHub, you will have to get that created, and once you have the account you should be able to use everything. So for example, from here I can go to my profile and then I can see all of the badges that I got as well as all of the repositories that I'm working on. And again, for example, from here I can go to the repositories and I should be able to see repositories where my code is. But the main thing that we will be talking about today is this Copilot. Okay, so this is the Copilot where we will be focusing. And for example, if you do not see this Copilot option, again, you can use the free trial version of this Copilot. But obviously, you will need the license account to get started using this Copilot. Okay, so now that let's talk about GitHub Copilot, specifically a GitHub Copilot, which is your paid programmer. Okay, so GitHub Copilot, which is AI-powered kind of an code completion tool, which is developed by GitHub in collaboration with OpenAI. So it is designed to assist developers in writing code more efficiently by providing contextually relevant suggestions and completing the repetitive kind of a task. So you can or maybe in the background it is using the machine learning models which are trained on vast amount of code from open source repositories. So GitHub Copilot can understand the context of the code being written and it can generate the accurate suggestions for completing it. So these suggestions can range from the entire lines of code to function signatures, variable names, and many more things. So specifically like GitHub Copilot integrates seamlessly with various popular code editors like Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, and many more, for example, that you are using. So simply it enables developers to access its suggestion directly within their coding environment. Okay, so as a developer, when we interact with Copilot, we are kind of providing feedback and corrections, and that tool, the Copilot tool, then or the GitHub Copilot tool, then can learn and improve over the time. So it is becoming increasingly adept at providing the helpful and accurate kind of suggestions. Okay, so overall, GitHub Copilot aims to streamline the coding process. Thereby, it can reduce the need for repetitive kind of typing, and again specifically it can boost the developer productivity by giving the power of AI to assist with the code creation. So, for example, if you have a look at this slide, obviously it is a AI powered code completion. It has got natural language interface. So to use GitHub Copilot, we don't need to um, learn any syntax. We can simply use the natural language, simple plain English language that we use with our friends, or maybe other chat interfaces to learn. Okay, so GitHub Copilot doesn't need any learning journey or learning curve. And again, it does support multiple programming languages. So whether you are writing a code in C Sharp or PowerShell or Ruby, Python, all those kind of a thing, it does have got support for that. Again, as I mentioned, like it learns from that continuous improvement and everything. So let's say for that, probably I can show you a demo, but probably I will keep it a bit later. So there we get the chance to GitHub Copilot to accept the suggestion, or maybe redo the suggestion, or even we can enhance that suggestion. So that is where it is always onto the continuous learning path. And again, it has got integration with various code editors, so that we'll be able to use it across any of the code editor that we like. So simply like it is your code completion tool. It has got the natural language interface. It has got support for multiple programming languages. It is continuously learning and improving based on the user feedback. And then it has got integration with multiple code editors. So what we need more than this, right? Okay, so now that let's come to the demo, like how we can manage the GitHub Copilot individual subscription. Okay, so let me again go back to my GitHub profile. So once you go to the GitHub profile, you can just click onto the your Copilot, and then you should be able to get to your GitHub Copilot. Okay, so for example, if you have not yet enabled the free trial, here somewhere you should be able to see an option of starting a free trial. So you can do that. And again, for example, if you want to modify your Copilot individual subscription, so again you can do that by going to your profile and then probably clicking onto the settings. So once you click the settings, you should be able to get to the billing and plans. And again, under the plans and usage, you should be able to see your current GitHub Copilot plan. And again, for example, if you want, you can change that plan from here as well. So these are the basic settings that we have got in order to use the GitHub Copilot. So for example, if you have not yet enabled GitHub Copilot, just go to your Copilot, and from there you should be able to get started with the free trial at least. And obviously you will like it and go for the paid subscription because it is worth using it. Okay, so now what happens once you enable the GitHub Copilot, okay, and how that GitHub Copilot works. So GitHub Copilot provides the context to the Copilot or all of the editors. So once you enable this GitHub Copilot, your editor provides context to the GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Copilot uses OpenAI Codex model and GPT-4 behind the scenes, and it returns the suggestions to your code editor when you choose what to accept and what to ignore. Okay, so simply like how does it work? So GitHub Copilot provides the context from the local file. It is not attached to any of the repository, and the file being edited could be hosted on a GitHub or into any of the repository, but it's not the requirement. Okay, so GitHub Copilot shares data in a short-lived way. So it has got shared just long enough for GitHub Copilot to provide the suggestion. So it does not take the code and put it back to the data model for any suggestions. So this is how it works. So GitHub Copilot normally uses the transformative kind of a model. So think of this something like a Google Translate. So you put some words in English, translate that into the other language, and Google Translate hasn't seen that exact sentence before necessarily, but it translates that into the new language. So Google Translate understand the semantics, the definition of the word, the language patterns, and whether there is a subject or direct kind of an object associated with that. And based on that input, it suggests the appropriate results. Okay, so you can think about GitHub Copilot as same kind of an translation tool. So how does it work is like we do have this OpenAI Codex model, and GitHub Copilot is built on top of that. So whenever we use our IDs, developer IDs, for example, Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, JetBrains, or maybe NeoVim, so we install that as an add-in into our developer IDE, and then again it has got the context of everything, all of the open files that we worked with and everything, and then it keeps track of all of the activity that we do there and all of the files which are open, as well as all of the repository that is it has got access to. And then from there it um, analyzes that code by passing on to the OpenAI Codex model, and then it start giving the suggestion. So simply like GitHub Copilot learns how people write code by looking at lots of example, and sometimes it sees the same lines of code repeated in many different projects. So when this happen, it might think that these lines are common way of writing code instead of something pretty much unique. So GitHub Copilot might suggest that common patterns when it sees a similar kind of a situation. So to make sure that it doesn't suggest anything proprietary or secret, GitHub Copilot team created filter to prevent those things. Okay, so that way we are pretty much secured. So GitHub Copilot includes filter which detects code suggestion which are matching the public code onto the GitHub, and then you can choose to enable or disable that filter. Okay, so when the filter is enabled, GitHub Copilot checks for the code suggestions with their surrounding of about 150 characters. But before that, let me just show you from where we'll be able to control those settings. So from here, you can see that these are few of the policies that we have got, and then again. There's a specific thing which I was talking about, like suggestion matching the public code. For example, right now that I have it allowed, so GitHub Copilot will show the suggestions which are matching from the public code. But for example, for the enterprises who do not want to have this option allowed, they can block them so that GitHub Copilot will not show the suggestion which are matching from the public code. Okay, so you do have a control at the organization as well as at the individual level, so that you will be able to use this. Okay, so I was talking like GitHub Copilot checks the code suggestions with their surrounding code of about 150 characters against the public code onto the GitHub. Okay, so if there is a match or near match, the suggestion will be shown to you, and this is done with the service side of this GitHub Copilot. So the obvious question is like, why then only 150 characters? Okay, so GitHub Copilot limits suggestion to 150 characters to strike a balance. So it's not too short to miss any important code, and yet it avoids any kind of an revealing too much of code. Okay, so that is where the length typically covers about 2 lines of code that any developer can write. Okay, so now that let's talk about prompt engineering with GitHub code. But before that, let me just go into the IDE and show it to you how the GitHub code looks like. So right now I'm into the Visual Studio Code, and here you can see that right now I do not have configured GitHub Copilot, but let me just show you how you will be able to use the GitHub Copilot. So you can see that I already have it running here, but GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio Code is available as an extension. So from this left menu, you can just click onto the extension, and you can just search for something called as GitHub here. Oh. So once you do that, there are 2 extensions that you should be able to see. First one is GitHub Copilot, and second one is GitHub Copilot Chat. Okay, so these are the 2 extensions which will help you to write a better code. So once you click GitHub Copilot, since I already have it installed, I see disable and uninstall option, but this is a place from where temporary you will be able to disable the GitHub Copilot if in case you do not need any suggestions. Okay, and then once you enable that GitHub Copilot, the icon will be here. So for all of the files which are supported by GitHub Copilot, you should be able to see that icon. And once you click this icon, you should be able to see the status. So right now status is ready. That means my GitHub is pretty much ready to give me the suggestions or write the code. Again, we do have this GitHub Copilot Chat, which is another extension. So as soon as I click that, here you can see that I do have this chat wherein I will be able to talk to my code, which I will be demonstrating you in a while. Again, for example, if you want to disable the completions, you can do that. You can edit the keyboard shortcuts which have been used by the GitHub Copilot. For example, if you like to use the keyboard shortcuts, you can do that one as well. And then there are a few other settings like diagnostics, logs checking, and all those kind of things. So this is how the GitHub Copilot is placed into the IDEs, specifically inside of the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so again, programmers they use various IDs depending on their specific needs and preferences, but you can feel free to use it in many applications. Okay, so now that let's understand the user prompt process flow, how it works into the GitHub Copilot. Okay, so here's the breakdown of GitHub Copilot, how it turns your prompt into smart, usable kind of an code. Okay, so first thing what happens is like there is a secure prompt transmission and context gathering. So the process starts when you send your message to GitHub Copilot using secure connection called HTTPS. So this keeps your message safe and private, and Copilot gets your message, which could be a chat or comment that you write in your code. So as I explained, we can use this GitHub Copilot in two ways. Either we can directly write that code here into our code file, or even we can pass in on some comments to the GitHub Copilot chat, and then even from there we can start the start conversation with GitHub Copilot. So what GitHub Copilot does is it look at the code before and after where we are writing, so that it can understand the context where we are trying to write the code. It checks the type of file that we are editing, like a Python file or a JavaScript or a TypeScript file. Then it helps to give the suggestions that make sense for that type of file. It also checks other tabs that you have got open, so the suggestions fit well with rest of your project. Okay, because the code should be consistent across various projects. Second thing what happens here is once we do that context gathering for the prompt, the content filtering happens. So before Copilot start understanding what you want and try suggesting the code, it checks for something to keep you safe. Okay, so it makes sure not to include any personal information like names, address, or ID numbers in the suggestion. So this keeps your private details pretty much safe. Okay, and it also uses special tools to stop any hate speech, offensive language, or any kind of an inappropriate content from appearing there. The third thing what it does is it does the content context analysis, not content analysis. So after checking the content, Copilot looks at all of the information it has gathered, like the code that you are working on, the type of file that you are working on. So this help Copilot to understand what you are asking for, and then what are you trying to do inside of your code. And then obviously it goes for the code generation. So after understanding what you want to do, Copilot does few things, like it gives you the suggestion for the code that fits the way you like to write the code, and then it suggests the code names for functions and variables. It also creates the whole piece of code that are correct and fit well where you are writing them, and it makes sure that the code matches the language, framework, and the rules of your project. All right, so once it is done, the fifth step that it comes is for the user interaction. So GitHub Copilot can just give the suggestion, but it is up to the user to accept the code as it is. It can make some modification to the suggested code, or even the user can reject the code suggestions. Okay, so once you do those kind of a thing as a user, then it initiates something called as a feedback loop. So GitHub Copilot specifically initiate that feedback loop, which is based on the actions to grow its knowledge from the accepted suggestions, or maybe learn or improve through the modifications or rejection from the suggestions. And then on the seventh step is goes for the prompt history retention. So throughout the coding session, Copilot retains the history of prompt, context details, and interaction. So this history serve as the contextual reference, which allows Copilot to provide consistent and coherent kind of an suggestions. And then in the last step, it is for the history retention. So this is the process, kind of a repeated process that provide more prompts with Copilot continuously handling the user request and understanding their intent and generating the code in the response. Okay, so this is how it works. So now that maybe instead of going through bit details, let us see, keep it light, and then we will see how we'll be able to write the code. So what I will do is I will just do control N, so that I will be able to create a new file, or maybe you can just do file, new file, and then again here you should be able to write your code. So here you can see that it is asking me to write something. So either I can use Control I to start asking Copilot to do something. Okay, so probably let's say I will say write me a TypeScript class to represent a customer. Okay, right. So now that what it will do is it will try generating that class. So here you can see that again we do have these suggestions coming from Copilot. Um, so this is a class customer that it has created. So here we have got ID, name, email, as well as we do have constructor, and again we do have some getter, setter kind of methods. So here probably again you can see that we can ask Copilot to reformulate this code, which is a suggestion, or we can accept this code, or even we can discard the code. So these are the three basic things that we can do here. So let's say for example when we accept the code, we will be able to extend on top of it. But now that for example if you had noticed, I had to write something like I want to create a code for TypeScript. Okay, but let's say for example when you are into a file, let's say you have created a file. So for that reason let me just go into any of the directory, or let me just create a new folder. And for example if I go into this folder and then try to create a new file, so what we will do now is that we will create a file and directly name that file as a TypeScript file. Okay, just give me one moment. I think I created folder. Oh, or let me just do a very quick thing. So from here I will create a file called as customer.ts. Okay, and now I will go back here. So now that I do have this customer.ts, and obviously ts, that means it is a TypeScript file. So I can simply go into the Control I, and then I will now not type I want to create TypeScript class, but I will just mention like write a class. Oops, my keyboard is not working. Okay, write a class to represent a customer, because now that it knows the context, what kind of files that I do have open, as well as what is the type of this file. So here you can see that it has created the class, which is pretty much a TypeScript class. Okay. At the same time, for example, let's say I create another file and maybe call it as a customer.cs, and let us see like how this one works. Okay, so again I will do Control I, and I will write write a class to represent a customer. Okay, and that's it. So it should now identify that this one is a C# kind of an code that I'm trying to write. So if you have a look at the difference between these two, here you can notice that I use the same prompt, but it has created me the TypeScript class when it came for the TS, and it has created the .NET base or C# based class when the file extension was .cs. So it works everything based on the context that it learns from. So how does it work? So GitHub Copilot uses LLM to provide those context-aware code suggestions. So there is a, or it is probably created using this LoRa fine-tuning, which is learning to rank fine-tuning for GitHub Copilot. So the traditional full fine-tuning means to train all parts of the neural networks, which can be slow and heavily reliant onto the resources. But LoRa, which is a learning to rank kind of a fine-tuning, it is a clever kind of an alternative, and it uses, or it use the make the pre-trained kind of an LLM to work better for a specific task without redoing all of the things. And that is where this GitHub Copilot is based on, and then from there it is able to suggest all those kind of a code. All right, so with that, let me just go back to the demo and try to show you few of the things. Okay, so let me just discard all those things. I will not save because we will redo this. Okay, let me just also delete these files. But okay, what we will do now is that let's say for example it doesn't just work only with TypeScript or .NET, but it can work very generically. Okay, so let's say for example we want to create a new file, and then I will just probably call it as a customer .json. Okay, so again, this is just the simple JSON class. So I will again have the same thing like write a class. Probably I should have written the right presentation for this. So here you can see that even though I have written like write a class for customer, it has created that as a JSON file. Okay, so probably now that I will say like add add country element. So it should go ahead and update this prompt, and then it should be able to add country here. So here you can see that it has added the country. So this is how we'll be able to do that. Now that let's take the very much simplistic kind of an example of how we'll be able to write the classes. So let's say for example here we have created a class called as calculator.ts, which is just simple mathematical kind of an class. So I will again just do control I, and I will say like create a calculator class to add and subtract numbers. Okay, so this is the very basic calculator class that we have got, and here you can see that it was able to do everything. Okay, so now that for example if I want to have a discussion with this, so what I can do is I can just simply go to the go to the Copilot, and I can just mention like probably I will just close all the other files so that it will just have context of this open file. So I will say like explain this class. Okay, so what it will have is it will have the context awareness of the file which is open. So here you can see that it has got the context of this calculator file, and then from here you can see that it is going into the details of what that class is doing. So here we do have the class definition, we do have those methods and everything, and again probably here it is explaining that we are creating an instance of this class. Again we do have those method calls and everything. So for example if you have got any code, obviously it can help you explain that code entirely. Now that let's say for example we want to use few more things, so again what I can do is I can just do control I here, and then probably I should be able to use /doc so that it can create a documentation for this method. Okay, so here you can see that it has created a documentation for my method. And again, this particular documentation is pretty much aligned with how the documentation of TypeScript looks like. Okay, so this is how it works. So again, there are few more things that you can do, like let's say /explain. So if you type /explain, so it is using the Copilot ability to explain the code. So here you can see that it is trying to explain the entire code. Same kind of an functionality even you can use here as well. So again here you can use /explain, and then it can help you explain that code very easily. Okay, so these are the things that we can easily do. Let's say for example I have written this code and I have made some mistake here. So in that case what I can do is I can just highlight this, and then I can type like find potential issues. So it can help you to detect like what are the issues that we have got in line number 13 to 15. Okay, so here you can see that the suggestion is like the method subtract is supposed to subtract b from a, but the implementation is different. It is adding a to the b. So that means it will also give you the corrected code suggestions, but again it will not be correct every time. You will have to make sure that all of the code suggestions which are given by Copilot, they are correct. You will have to validate them, and then only you can use. So this was the quick demo of like how GitHub works. Let's talk about GitHub Copilot chat with respect to the TypeScript. So Visual Studio Copilot Chat offers you the AI assistant that can help you to write code faster and better. So it is an AI powered pair programmer that can answer your questions, suggest the code snippet, explain the code logic, and chat uh, with you about your project that you are working on. So again, here are a few of the slash commands that we can use. So we just have seen like /doc can help you explain the documentation, or add the documentation comment /explains can explain you the code and everything. So let us try to see that in maybe into a demo. So here what we have is like these are the methods that we have got. And oh sorry, if in case I go back to my Visual Studio Code, so let's say for example slash doc, we just have seen like how it works. I can just select this code. Let's say for example this is subtract method, but we are adding two numbers. I can again go into control I, and then I can just do slash fix. Okay, so this slash fix should help me analyze everything, and then it should be able to do the code suggestion there itself. Okay. Okay, so the code generation was not successful, but probably if you can just redo that, it should work. Okay. And then we just have seen that it was able to give that suggestions. Now that for example if you want to generate a code to answer your question, in that case you can simply type slash generate. Okay, so it can help you to generate a new code. Okay, so let's say for example if you do control I and just type slash generate, it can help you generate a new code as well. Again, for example, here you can use slash help to get your help, or even you can use slash optimize to analyze and improve the running time of the selected code. So let's say for example I do a minus p here, and or maybe I can just do control I here, and then I can just type slash optimize. Okay, so for example if you do this slash optimize, it should be able to give you the suggestions for optimizing this entire code. Okay, so it can do the optimization. Right now there wasn't any optimization, but it can do that. The other pretty much important thing here is like test cases. Most of the developer, they don't like to write the test cases, but let's say for example you have a code for which you want to create a test case. So in that case you can just do control I, and then you can just go for slash test, and then it can help you create the entire test case. Okay, so here you can see that it is giving me the option to pick the testing framework. So let's say for example we go with Muka, and then it can help you create that entire test case. So here you can see that it is giving me the option to go ahead and install this extension, and once I install that extension, I will get an option to write my test cases. All right, so this is what it can do very easily with your Copilot. And now that for example if you are pretty much interested in the Copilot individual, business, or Copilot enterprises, these are the options that it provides. So there is a pricing associated with Copilot individual, business, and enterprise level. So GitHub Copilot chat is available with all of the flavors. The things which are not available with Copilot individual are like the organization-wide policy management, exclusion of the specific files, audit logs, GitHub Copilot chat onto the github.com as well, and then again Copilot pull request summaries. But those features are available as you go to Copilot Business and Copilot Enterprise. Yeah, all right. So that's all I just wanted to cover in this session, but hopefully that was helpful, and then it will help you with your journey getting started with the GitHub Copilot. Thank you.